here. So let's start. It's about case interview tips. So first tip, you should deliver a structured and friendly case opening. So what does it consist of? Although a case lasts about 30 minutes, verdict's almost determined within the first 3 minutes. That means if you have a perfect opening, then it might great chance of getting an offer. There are 7 steps to deliver that perfect opening. First, sorry, uh, first show appreciation. And everyone loves compliments, so give us an sincere one to your interview. Thank you for this very interesting case. I'm happy to get the chance to solve it. Your interview is not HR personnel. Is spending time and effort on you as a form of bill for the company. So there are consultants who take the interview. Those simple thankful words go a long way. This works best at the start, but you should show appreciation throughout the case. For example, when the interviewer gives you useful data or feedback. Uh, the, the second one, announce case. And by the way, I think that for you in high school of economics, you had the skill of appreciation. Second, announce case introduction. Explicitly and consciously announce that you are going to do the following steps 3, 4, and 5. For example, I'm going to recap the case and ask for some clarifications just to make sure that we are on the same page. Then I'm going to inform you approach to the case. This is related to what term map habit, which I'll explain soon enough, because habit that you must have during the whole case history. So, like you are going through the map and you have some checkpoints. You're talking, okay, I'm on this stage on the map, and what I'm gonna do next. Called map habit. So, recap. Play back the case to make sure you concretely understand. There's nothing worse than realize you've been spending all the resources trying to solve the wrong problem. Thus, consultants always try to be absolutely clear what the client wants and what they are facing. For example, the best practice of consulting is to send follow-up mails, follow-up messages. When you had a conversation, a meeting with the client, after that you send a follow-up about the tasks you've put on this meeting, about their some ideas that were told and were clarified, and so on, the main bullets of the meeting. Do the same in the case interview, and you'll get a lot of plus points. Make sure you know who the client is, the situation the client in, and the case questions and objectives. For example, so here's how I understand the case. Our client is a pirate company stationed in the Caribbean and provides asset removal services. The company is having negative profits. Our objective is to deliver a solution to that problem. Am I correct? So here you can see these 3 stages. Company, client, pirate company stationed in the Caribbean. Next, and provides asset removal services. The second, the company is what the situation is. The company is having negative profit, and about the objective question. Our objective is to deliver a solution to that problem. So that are 3 points in this The fourth step, clarify. Ask questions to clarify any confusion and unclear parts you have about the case. Most often, there are three kinds of information to clarify at this stage: definitions, time frame, and measurement. For example, great, now I'd like to ask three clarifying questions. First, what kinds of assets does our client remove for their customer ships? The second, how long has the negative profit problem been going on? The third, how long can our client continue the business with negative profits? For example, what's the deadline? What's the deadline of our solution? So, quick question. And the fifth stage, announce case approach. Announce the overall logical flow of the upcoming case. Logical flow depends on the type of case. Most common type is problem solution, where the flow is first, break down the problem into small parts. Second, set up the hypothesis. Third, ask for data to test hypothesis. Fourth, identify the root causes, and 5, deliver solutions. So that's like that case I gave you in the previous seminars, and you had to create all these stages. And you are free to make a hypothesis and decisions from your own. And for example, for the overall approach to ensure long-lasting impact of our solutions, I'm going to try and break down the problem into small pieces with issue trees, then drill down to isolate and identify the root causes, while also gathering data to draw action solutions. So that could be your drill. And the sixth part is align. Remember to check if the interviewer agrees with your approach at the start, and at each key step in the case. In real consulting projects, managers expect junior consultants to align early, and often because no one wants their team going in the wrong direction for a whole week. Case interview simply ask, "Oh, does this sound like a reasonable approach to you?" Often you'll get a green light. However, there is a chance the interviewer will suggest an even better approach. 7. Ask for timeout. If you need some time to think, ask for it. This applies not only at the start of the case, but throughout. Sorry, I need some time to collect my thoughts and develop my issue tree. So may I take a timeout? Don't just rush into the case, then later try to fix all the errors you could have avoided. You spend some more time to think. Really bad habit, and no manager wants their junior consultant act like that in a real project. Beware though, once you've asked for timeout, you need to come back with something worth it. Don't spend 90 seconds just to divide profits into revenues and costs. Additionally, this early in the case, don't drill down. Save that for later, because you have yet to get a clue where the problem is. What if you drill down 2 levels on the revenue side just to have the first piece of data confirming the problem is on the cost side? So these are seven steps that will help you to be structured in a case as you've seen in the video, they were holding this structure. I also today will show you a pair of videos. Tip number 2, always speak in a structured manner. I can't stress enough how effective consultants must be structured in everything they do. Every word they speak must reflect that structured mindset. So the interviewer looks on your mindset because definitely we have two big groups of people. The first that is more creative, more flexible, more structured, and second is you want to ask something, Andrew?
Yes, I understand that these tips are for speaking in some way, but when, at what situation should we use this?
At the case interview, when you've got the case, so you use this structure. You
Okay,
say, thank you. Yeah. If you will have a case interview in a consulting company, that will help you. And also you can have a case interview in other companies. For example, Procter & Gamble, Unilever, they use case interviews broadly.
Oh,
And
I'm sorry, but could you please remind quickly what is a case interview? Just very briefly.
I've thought about it on several lectures. That's a format of interviewing when a consultant gives you, or then an interviewer, practically it's a consultant in the company, gives you a case, so a situation of a client that you should solve, to give an advice for the client. So we've done this, we've solved cases on several of our seminars. We've already done that were all cases. It's a format of interviewing when you're getting through HR process, consulting company.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And not only in consulting, as I've already said, big corporations also use this approach, and these tips will help you to get more scores in the interview, case interview. So practically, we've solved cases on our seminars, but also in real situation, you should add something in your communication. And these tips are about what you should add. So this structure at the beginning of the case, cooperation, announced case introduction, and so on. That's this about communications, about the feedback, about that you should. They will help you to be more congruent, more specific, more accurate to the case when you will have face-to-face case interview. So you can ask these questions, you can clarify, you can align, you can announce case approach, and so on. It is much more better to use it than only to take case. Oh, okay, I understand, thank you. Go to the solving case, and after that you go, okay, my answer is, yeah, that's a basic, but you can use your communication to improve this process and even to get tips from your interviewer, and also to show your interviewer your structured matter of structured way of thinking. Also, you will show your communication skills, and that is very important, especially the skill of giving and taking feedback. So that are the stages when you clarify, when you align, yes, when you announce case approach. So you use this communication circle, like in the army. So when the sergeant tells you, so Mr. Ivanov, you should go to that hill and take it with 5 soldiers, and you say, okay, sergeant, I should take this hill, conquer this hill with my 5 soldiers. Am I understand you clearly? And the sergeant tells you, yes, Mr. Renault, go. And that is the communication circle when you have when you say that you understand, when you clarify, and when you have feedback. And it's very important in every project and when you work with clients. So because we understand the information by ourselves in a one way, and the other people, even if it's your colleague, even if he have a similar mindset, he will understand not he will understand information in his way, and the feedback helps you to clarify it. So that's all about feedback. So you should use this skill on the interview. Um, on every interview, case interview that you will have, you can have an interview with some kind of other questions, not only the cases. So there will be such situations in your practice if you will go for a walk, and if you will work with clients, we also should clarify. For example, today we will talk about flawless consulting, and the first phase is contraction. When you make a contract with your client, and it's not only about uh, the paper, the contract. No, it's about you and the client understand what you will do next, and that is very important. If you use the feedback, you should have the common understanding with the client. And for making this, for making the contract, you should use communication. Also, these skills used on the case interview, they are similar. And when you work with clients, when you start a meeting, you start with a contract. Okay, what will be today? What goals we have for our meeting, and so on. So for that, everyone is in the common field of information. So this is a consultant skill, manager skill, and so on. Yeah. So always speak in a structured manner. So there are 3 tips to structure your speech. I'll send them on the slide. So first is begin with a summary line stating the most important takeaways or intention. So start with the end, as public speakers say. Second, divide that you intend to say into clear-cut parts, and avoid jumping back and forth between items as much as possible. And third, number your items, so it's easier to keep track both for you and your interviewer. Even better if you announce in advance how many items you are going to discuss. So that is a structured matter of speaking. And take a look again at the opening parts, and you'll see tips being applied. We use these tips when you announce case approach, for example. And these 7 tips are also in this structure. And if you desperately need to speak in an unstructured fashion, just ask, may I think out loud for a short while? Indigo will allow unstructuredness for that mode. However, you don't need to structure your ideas once the verbal brainstorming session is over. So thinking in a structured manner is a very important skill. The third, avoid long moments of silence. Don't allow long, awkward moments of silence in your interviews. Ask for timeout or announce think out loud mode. That's also a great tip. So to avoid the silence, you may think out loud. A timeout is a great use to think in silence. However, too long and it will backfire, especially if you can't come up with something worthy of the long way. Use it prudently and always try to think as fast as possible while still being correct. Thinking out loud is especially good if you need a lot of time to brainstorm and you want some feedback from the interviewer during the process. Again, however, limit your use of this out of jail card. Not too many think out loud sessions will create the impression that you are unorganized. Fourth tip, always stick to the hypothesis. So as I've showed you on the previous seminar, remember the tree, we had it like this. So we had the revenue or the profit, costs and revenues, and we have reasons, we have factors that that affect the metrics that are higher, and have reasons, we have root causes of the problem. So use this. Always speak with the current hypothesis in mind, and that hypothesis must be in the issue tree. The whole point of this hypothesis-driven approach to problem solving is to have your efforts guided by hypothesis and not wasted aimlessly. Throwing out the issue tree and getting it is like let's continue. Let's continue. Even the best and brightest people get their hypothesis amidst of overwhelming data. To avoid such situation, do yourself a sanity check every once in a while. Look back at your issue tree. If what you are doing doesn't match your current position, go back immediately. So even when you had a coffee shop case, you also had you could have some hypotheses there. For example, our first general hypothesis was that it's profitable for Kate to open a coffee shop in Cambridge now. And we've checked this hypothesis. And also had some others. For example, one team had a hypothesis that Robo coffee shop will be more profitable and will have more clients. That was a hypothesis that we checked. And some other team thought that some kind of co-working format for coffee shop will be good and attract clients. So that's also hypothesis, and so on. So you use them. So the hypothesis, the formula of hypothesis is if, then. If we do X, we will have Y. Have Y means Z. Y. If we do X, we will have Y. We will have Z. That is the formula. So the interviewer should see that you use them. 5. Make notes using 3 separate sheets: data, presentation, Scratch. Use 3 types of notes for your case interviews. Or when the interview starts, pull 3 sheets of paper and label them accordingly. You'll use the data sheet to jot down and process any data the interviewer gives you, as well as your calculation. And the presentation sheet to draft things you'll say to the interviewer, and the data sheet for anything else you need to write out, such as your ideas when brainstorming. One thing, Keep Notes really helps with you go through the process, because it eases the story and ranging of information you receive. Right now, you're showing the interviewer that you are an organized and careful person. Don't forget about the presentation sheet. It can be on your laptop, or it can be on a paper sheet. So for the presentation. The second sheet is that data you took from the interview and the thoughts, your thoughts, your ideas, brainstorming, and so on. Process of solving the case. The 6th tip: make the final pitch short and result-oriented. Final solution pitch must be very short and result-oriented. Imagine you are in the elevator with the client CEO, or in the example case, the chief captain, and he asks for your findings. To be able to deliver it before the elevator arrives at the destination floor. This is a question they ask at the end of the case interview. They may ask you to have an elevator pitch. Pitch should always begin with the root causes, immediately followed by your recommendations. Clients here don't have much time to waste on the procedure, so no need to bring it up. And lastly, end your pitch in a client-friendly fashion, saying, "We're happy to work with you to implement the solution." Voila, you've nailed that pitch. So yes, that will help you with the client work, that will help you with sales. Yeah, so we have the structure of 2 points: the root causes and the recommended decision. So it's like when you go to the doctor. So the most valuable the doctor could say to you is the root causes, the correct root causes of your problem, and the correct way of solution. That is very priceless. That is very valuable. And even if he or she can deliver this solution, that's or he may give the solution to you or to to tell you to go to another specialist. It's also okay, but the correctness of points most valuable. And so that is what, for example, CEO wants to hear from you. Some of these points also you could have in your mind, and not all of them you can tell to your client, and not all of them you can tell to employees. So CEO, for example, and so on. There are some political parts of this. So the seventh tip: know how you can get stuck in cases and how to avoid. So the first can be the data stuck. If you got a piece of data and don't know what to make of it, ask for benchmarks. Benchmarks are the easiest way to put data into perspective. The two most common benchmarks for comparison and case interview are competitor figures and past figures. If the client's data deviates from industry or historical trends, you know something is off with their business. Make it explicit to the interviewer that you need the benchmarks to help with the issue 3. To see if it's an external or internal problem, and therefore locate the potential root causes, I need some data on the revenue of another pirate companies in the Caribbean. So that sounds like that. And the second is the framework stuck. If you don't know which framework to use, go for segmentation. A lot of candidates get stuck after they've exhausted the first level of the issue 3. Sure, improving your business intuition helps you avoid this, but it takes time. Sure, learning more frameworks might help, but you will framework vomit if you don't know how to use them right. The easy way out in the situation is to see how that item is usually segmented by the client or by the industry. If you're not sure how they do it, ask the interviewer. Remember to state your purpose clearly. The easy way out in the situation is to see how that item. Now, for example, it seems that conventional breakdown of revenue and unit sales doesn't yield signification insight. My experience in the pirate industry is rather limited. So to draw a spot on issue 3, may I ask you how our clients segment their revenue? Can be like this. The first stuck is I can't find the problem. You can't point out where the problem is coming from. Something wrong with your issue 3. This is probably the most dreadful one because you can't even see clearly where you got it wrong. However, don't panic. That's the last thing an interviewer wants to see in a prospective consultant. There are two possibilities here. Your issue 3 is not missed, or your issue 3 is missed, but it's set up in a way that doesn't isolate the problem. Either way, admit you are having a problem and ask for timeout. Fix it. Do it with style. Here's something you can use. Oh, by the way, there important point for you once again. About mix. You'll need it about the MIST method. So I haven't told you about it, the MIST method. So that's about, for example, the problem tree or some other logical construction. So there should be, in your logic, there should be maturity, exclusive, collectively, and exhaustive. So what does it mean? No one individual can appear in more than one category, and all categories combined includes all individuals. Some other examples. Other examples of this. 1 second, I'll give it to you. For example, this. So they see the scheme, there are all the variants, and they are categorized. For example, like this, or the graphical one is like this. So means usually exclusive. So we have this path. Everyone is exclusive. Plus collective exhaustive. And we have this. Okay. So about I can't find the problem. So your issue tree should be MIST. It's not MIST, there will be a problem. If it is MIST, but it's set up in a way that doesn't isolate the problem. Either way, admit you're having a problem and ask for time out to fix it. If you style is something you can use. My analysis seems to go into a dead end, which means either part of my issue tree is not MIST, or my method of breaking down does not isolate the problem. Either way, I'd like to take a time out, have another look. That's it. So you also show the interviewer that you know about the MIST structure, or that your issue tree should be isolated. Just saying this already scores some points for you, and rest assured, no interviewer will refuse. So that are the 7 tips for the case interview. Also can show you video. For example, like this video by Bain. The interview. Have questions, ask them. Have questions, ask them. For this interview, 7 minutes we have, yes. Show you this. So show you the example of using these principles in the case interview. If it's okay with sound and with video, please put something in the chat so that it's okay with sound and video.
Manya?
Hi.
Hi, welcome to.
I'll look in the chat. Grigory, thank you. So let's see.
Spain.
Thank you.
I'm Emily. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Okay, follow me. Okay, so I propose that we just jump right into the case and get started. How does that feel?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okie dokie. So I'm going to keep my computer screen open, and there's a few pieces of data and some graphs that I might want to show you, but otherwise, I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Great. Our client is Next Gen Tech, and they've created a wearable device called the Theo. And Theo is essentially a little computer on your wrist. It tracks activity, so it tells you your calories, your steps. It also can accept text messages. It's basically a fully connected device. Next Gen Tech wants Theo to make $1 billion over the next 2 years in the US. They brought us in because they have a bit of a problem. Theo has Wi-Fi built in, which is great, but that connectivity is only available currently when it has Wi-Fi. So they want to partner with a cellular carrier to provide that connectivity. And they've talked to Verizon and AT&T, the two biggest players in the US, and Verizon and AT&T are excited about the opportunity, but they have said that they will only work with Next Gen Tech and with Theo if they are the only two providers. So what Next Gen Tech asked us to come in and help them answer is, should they go with AT&T and Verizon and an exclusive relationship, or should they pursue a partnership with other carriers?
Great, so let me summarize the case for you to make sure I got all the details. Our client is Next Gen Tech. Our client has developed this wearable device called Theo, which is like a computer on your wrist. It tracks your fitness, calories, you can text from it. And our goal here is to make Theo a $1 billion revenue. Is that correct?
Yep, revenue.
And in the US only?
Yes, we're only talking about the US right now.
Okay. One complication is that the device has Wi-Fi built in, but our client wants it to work like anywhere, even when Wi-Fi is not available. So they want to partner with some cellular carriers. And the options we have are basically one, AT&T and Verizon, partnering with AT&T and Verizon, but they demand exclusivity, or following other carriers.
You got it.
Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Are we planning to sell this device only through like the carriers' stores?
Yeah, for now, that's our distribution channel, is going to be through AT&T and Verizon or other carriers' stores.
Great. Do you mind if I take some time to organize my thoughts?
Go for it.
All right. So our goal is to make Theo $1 billion business in the US in revenue in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And the options, the question I have to answer is to whether go with AT&T and Verizon and sign an exclusivity contract or follow other carriers.
You got it.
To assess this problem, I would like to look to market size of the carriers, to the customer base, and the retail footprint of the options.
Okay.
So under market size, I would like to understand, since the carriers will be the only logistics, the footprint, the stores will be the only way of selling the product. I would like to understand the number of customers we currently have for AT&T, Verizon, and the other option. What is the price we'll be selling to these clients?
Sure.
And what is the growth expected between year 1 and 2? Under customer base, I would like to understand the demographics of the customers, understand their price sensitivity, and to assess the likelihood of the customer base to purchase our product.
Makes sense.
And finally, I would like to look at the retail footprint and see what is the number of stores we currently have for the options, and what is the sales force available.
Okay, I like that. Where do you want to start?
I would like to start by the market size, if that's fine. Yeah.
That works for me.
So first of all, I'd like to understand what is the price.
With AT&T and Verizon, our expectation is that we'll sell the Theo for $400.
Mm-hmm.
And with other carriers, our expectation is that we would sell it for $500.
Is there a reason for that?
Good question. So part of what makes AT&T and Verizon good partners is that they would be willing to throw in a little bit of money to bring down the cost that customers would have to put the door with Theo. So AT&T and Verizon are essentially helping to subsidize that $400 cost.
Makes sense. I would like to know the current number of customers we have.
Okay. Why do you want to understand that?
Because I want to assess like the total market, potential market, and calculate the penetration rate so we can see how feasible it is to get to 1 billion revenue
Got
for
it.
each of the options.
Okay, so I have a little bit of data for you then. Let me share that with you.
Okay, so I have the customer base for AT&T and Verizon and other carriers, which includes Sprint, T-Mobile, US Cellular, Cricket. It's pretty granular. So this is for the current customer base, right?
Correct. Right now.
Do we have the expected customer base next year?
Why do you want to understand that?
Because we want to, like, our goal is to get to 1 billion revenue in year 2. And I would like to calculate the penetration rate next year.
So we do have some growth rates. We know the growth rate for both AT&T and Verizon as well as for other carriers is about 20%. Give this back to you in case you need these numbers.
Okay. So what I would do to calculate the penetration rates is, first of all, I would estimate the potential market by multiplying the number of customers and in year 2, which means I will calculate the number of customers with 20% growth rate.
Okay.
And divide 1 billion by this number, which is the penetration rate. Does
Okay.
that make sense to you?
Yeah, I think so. Why don't you just start
Sure.
and then we can keep going.
So I have the number of customers for option 1, which is AT&T and Verizon, and option 2, which are the other carriers. So the growth rate is 20%. We get to the number of customers in year 2,
Okay.
which is 24 million for AT&T and Verizon, and 36 million. Just added 20% to each of the.
Okay. So you
Of the
did 20
numbers.
times 1.2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we have the price per device
Mhm.
for each of the scenarios, and here we have $400 for AT&T and Verizon and $500 for option 2. All right.
Okay.
By multiplying these two, I'll get to the potential total market size, assuming you have like 100% penetration.
Okay.
So this is the total market, not 9.6 billion and 18 billion
Okay.
for option 2. Since we want 1 billion revenue in year 2, I will divide 1 billion by 9.6 and my final. So in this case, I will approximate to 10% if that's fine with you. And here is 1 billion by 18, again, approximately 5% if that's fine.
That sounds good.
Yeah. So both penetration rates seem relatively low. Of course, option 2 seems easier to achieve. However, since we have more carriers, it's more granular. It's harder to probably standardize any go-to-market strategy they have. So I would.
So in a vacuum, 5% seems better than 10% penetration, but because option 2 is the other carriers and that's really fragmented, that could be potentially really
Exactly.
difficult. Got it. Okay.
So going back to my framework, the next step I would like to take is to look at the customer base and understand who our customers are, what they value when acquiring a product from their carriers. The way to do that would be probably to run a customer survey.
We definitely did do a customer survey, and I'm excited to share it with you.
So you can see here that this tells us what is the most important selection criteria for AT&T, Verizon, and the other carriers. So I'm assuming these numbers here are like the sample size, which means the number of customers interviewed in the survey.
You're right. Yep.
Great. For AT&T and Verizon, the two most important selection criteria are reliability of the network and customer service. So I'm assuming AT&T and Verizon provide a better network and a better customer service. On the other hand, the other carriers are very concerned about price. They're very price sensitive, which tells me that since our product is like a new product and we're looking for early adopters, early adopters are probably not very price sensitive. So it seems like AT&T Verizon customers have a better fit for our product.
Okay, that makes sense to me. So do you feel like you have enough information?
Yeah, since the distribution channels we're talking about are the carrier stores, I would like to understand, like, take a look at the retail footprint available,
Sure,
and see what is the number of stores each of the options have, how good is the sales force, and do you have any data on that?
I do, in fact. Here we go.
So here we have the number of stores in the US and outside of the US. Focusing first on the US, I can see that AT&T and Verizon combined have 4,000 stores, and all the other carriers combined have only 3,000 stores. So we're talking about, for option one, AT&T and Verizon had 33% more stores. And outside of the US, that's not true. However, since our goal is, in the next 2 years at least, is to focus only in the US, I don't think it's a problem right now.
Seems fair.
Yes, so again, AT&T and Verizon seem a better fit for our product.
Okay, so great. So we have a meeting with the CEO tomorrow, and she asked us to come in and let her know what we've learned so far, what our recommendation is based on what we've learned, any risks that we perceive, and if we have any next steps.
Great. Do you mind if I take some seconds
Go
to get
for
my
it.
thoughts? So my final recommendation would be to go with AT&T Verizon, option one. And the reason for that is that the penetration rates seem very reasonable for both options. However, the customer base for AT&T and Verizon customers seem a better fit to our product, because the customers are less price sensitive and are more likely to be early adopters of this new device. The main distribution channel will be the carriers' stores. AT&T and Verizon, they have more stores, like 33% more stores, and since this device, I feel like customers need to, like, try it on and make sure it fit and look well. It's a good reason to have. It's good to have more stores. Next steps are, first of all, follow up on the risks and assess them, and finally get the law team to write the contract and get the best terms possible for us.
Great. You're done. Good job.
Thank you.
So next steps on our side is that we will let you know if you make it through to the next round, and you should get a call from us. Thanks for being excited about Bain, and thanks for coming in and doing a case with me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's really good to meet you. Daniel did a great job on that case. There were a few things that I really appreciated about what he did. First, he listened really intently as I was setting up the case and the complications and the situation. He wrote great notes, and then he asked really important clarifying questions. It also allowed him to set up a framework where he then was able to drive the rest of the case. And so all along the way, he was referring back to his framework. I was able to refer back to it to keep us on track and stay structured. There often isn't a perfect answer to a case, and what Daniel did a great job of is defending his point of view. He found the data points from throughout the case and brought them into his final recommendation. The last thing I want to mention is that Daniel did a great job of making the interview feel just like a business conversation. He asked great questions, he shared of his experience, he allowed me to go back and forth with him, and I think we had a little bit of fun. So bravo, Daniel, you did a great job.
So that's the video. It's very likely like real interview. They're gonna smash. I don't understand what after Weibin hand. Weibin hard. They're gonna say. Don't understand your line, but they're acting cool. They're positive. They're solving case like American way or English way of communication. You could see the structure there, the structure that we've talked about. I'll remind you. So you see that this friendly operation can announce case introduction, clarify. So he clarify the case. He announced case approach. What will he do for this case? And also ask for a timeout and so on. So you see the structure here. He speaks in a structured manner on the effects, on the logical arguments, and also he avoid moments of silence. He was driven by hypothesis. So his hypothesis was that selling in INT retail is better, and he had arguments for this hypothesis. So based on the market issues, market service. He took notes, and also if you see, he had a presentation note that he showed to the interviewer. And also his final speech was short and result-oriented. So he had the course. So in that situation, it's not problem solving, but it's to choose from two variants. And he had the arguments for the first variant. So that's the example. Today I also want to start with flawless consulting. Have 10 minutes. Also, if you have some questions about the case interview, you can ask them. And what about the flawless consulting? It's a book by Peter Block. You can also read it. Very good book, and it's about. So we've talked about the frameworks, how to solve, and today we talk more about how to communicate. So that's the case, how to communicate with the interviewer, how to do it right, how to do it better, how to do it more effectively. And the book by Peter Block tells you how to be more effectively like a consultant. So that's a great book, and it could be useful even for experienced consultants. Because these points in the book, you should reread and remind you about them. And also when I've looked through the book, I also had a lot of aha moments and say, oh, that's it. That should I do in the project. Oh, I forgot to do that on the project. And so they are very important. And not only for consultants, also you can work like a consultant, for example, work with your client, like a psychologist, a coach. They also similar principles. And if you work business to business as a consultant also. And if you work like, for example, marketing agency, yes, and some other providers, education provider and so on. So there are plenty of situations, IT provider, yes. There are plenty of situations when you'll need these principles, like a project manager, for example, like a change driver in the companies, and so on. So there is a review, so you'll know why every consultant must practice what they preach. A consultant seems to spend most time of their time chatting, and why the meeting is a consultant created weapon. So today we'll start, and on the other days we'll continue this part. So the goals of consultancy. There are 4 basic goals. And first is to establish a collaborative relationship. Very important goal because you're working with people. you're not implementing the technologies, the standards, business processes, and so on. So you're working with relationship and the so-called cooperative culture, and you work with people. There can be different situations in your client's culture, and your goal is to establish a collaborative relationship. So the situation when people collaborate, when they work together for the one goal, that could be the goal of the project, yes, and you should administrate to for this situation to happen through the relationship. Second is to solve problems so they stay solved. So that seems to be obvious, but in projects there are a lot of moments. Then you have problems. You can say, "Oh no, it's not my problem. I have a project plan. I'll go from point A to point B, and that's okay. I will not see this problem. I will not watch on it." Obviously, you can do so, but it's fact on the first bullet: establish a collaborative relationship. So if people in the project, if those in the project will see you do this, so you shut your eyes on a lot of problems that are connected to a project. Yes, you should know solve not your problems, and that is about responsibility. The important point. But if these problems are connected with your project, you should somehow solve it by yourself or ask for help for the CEO, for the top managers, for your colleagues in a consultant team, for other experts, for ask for substitutes and so on to solve the problem. The third is to ensure attention is given to both the technical business problem and the relationships. Two parts. So basically, there are three parts in the managerial consulting. The first is corporation culture or the relationship. That for that part, the consultants often forget. The second is business part. It is connected with business processes. The business processes, requirements, some instructions, and so on. And the third is connected with IT part or the technical part. How to do it with the help of the technique, with the help of IT. And the consultants that provide IT decisions, for example, often forget about the corporate culture. The consultants that provide corporate culture often forget about the business part or about the technical part. And these are three main parts that are connected that should be used in every managerial consulting project, and even in IT consulting projects, for example. The fourth, developing client commitment during the consulting project. So that's about the contract or the commitment. To make your part of the contract and to help client to make his part. For example, even here I can add a slide, example about the contract. This is the checklist of responsibility. So when you make contract, the client in flawless consulting approach, remember that it's an auto approach block, you should use this checklist. So you see, it's about responsibility. So we have the gold line here. and responsibility is 50%. This can be the goal line. Please. Here. And there can be situations where you're not on this line. For example, when client define the initial problem, or you define the initial problem, and the responsibility should be 50% you and compliant. Or, for example, decide whether to proceed with the project, or to select the dimensions to be studied, or to decide who will be involved in the project. So remember, we have a so-called box project, for example, connected with IT. And in that situation, maybe this or that. And when we talk about the managerial consulting or the performance consulting, it should be here all of your goals. There are a lot of goals. For example, one of the goals is to help the client to go himself without consulting. Example, this one. Great consultant teaches company how to do things on its own, or how not to need a consultant. So if there is a situation when you decide by yourself what to do, there could be a situation that the client could not go without you, proceed without you, that way that you've implemented. So that is really important. You can also go to a website, flawlessconsulting.com. There are a lot of checklists from the book, and you can download them. And also that for the 2 minutes, have the time to say that to start as people involved in the project. So client, change sponsor, the stakeholder who will person affected by the particular issue being addressed by the consultant. We have the consultant, the change agent, person who is trying to have some influence over a group or organization, but has no direct power to make changes to implement programs. So that's very also important moment. And he uses his skills to do it. Have a change target audience. There are people who may use the product or solution provided by the consultant. For example, staff who may attend a training event. So these are four roles in the project. And the client change sponsor, this is the person in the organization who has the power to oversee or sanction the project undertaken by the consultant. And it's not the person, not always the person who initially calls the consultant. Also important. So we have time for breaks. We started Flawless Consulting today, and we will continue in it on other lections. That's a very interesting topic. You can also download this book, The Flawless Consulting by Visual Blog, and start to read it. As I've said, it's very important for you in a role of manager, of consultant, of coach, trainer, and so on. And we will continue on the next lecture. So thank you today. Hope it was useful for you. The part of case interview tips, the example of the case interview, and also starting off the Flawless Consulting, the professional, deep professional part. Thank you, and have a good day. See some of you on the seminar, or all of you.
Thank you for the lecture.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Have a nice one.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.